your Republican opponent, Steve Lanigan, and I'm going to editorialize here for a moment, if you'll indulge me, is behaving pretty despicably, I think, and spouting a lot of nonsense in which he's questioning your masculinity, he's questioning whether you're gay or straight, and I think you've responded in a really great way, basically saying, what the hell do you care? It doesn't make one whit of difference what kind of senator I would be. But I want to ask you this, from the perspective of the gay rights movement, from the perspective of the progress we have seen for LGBT rights, coming out has been a huge, morally important step to get the kind of acceptance we've seen. And so my question is, if you are gay, why would you not just come out?
Okay. Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. That's Chris Hayes on MSNBC addressing Cory Booker. We broke news on this show last week. Folks, this story has been picked up and twisted by almost every single publication and website, online site in the nation. And I mean almost every single one, not just major one. I'm talking about every single one. Hundreds of hits, hundreds of websites and news outlets, TV stations have picked this up. We're going to talk about this a little bit later. Steve Lanigan was on the show. He responded to something that Cory Booker said about his own sexuality, and now the media is twisting it into how Steve Lanigan is a bigot. But joining us to talk about another issue involving Cory Booker is Eliana Johnson, and she is media editor at National Review. Hello, Eliana. How are you? Oh, we don't have her yet. Okay. We are efforting her, as they say. She's written a piece at National Review Online, Cory Booker's Imaginary Friend. Now, this has nothing to do with sexuality, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get to that in the next segment, and if Eliana wants to weigh in on that, she may do so. But now I believe we have her. Hello, Eliana. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for coming on. And while we were getting you, we made news on this show last week, and I don't know if you want to weigh in on this or not as a forerunner to this piece you wrote. But Cory Booker gave an interview to the Washington Post, and that day I had Steve Lanigan on, and I said, hey, he's not answering the Washington Post question about his own sexuality. And so Lanigan responds. And now Lanigan, by every publication in this country and every TV station, everywhere you go, they've twisted this into Steve Lanigan is bringing up Cory Booker's sexuality, making fun of it, blah, 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 when it's Booker who won't answer the question, are you gay or straight?
Yeah, I don't think he's been entirely straightforward with regard to answering that question, though he has talked about...
No pun intended there? Straightforward? Okay.
Though he certainly talked about ex-girlfriends in a number of previous interviews, and that certainly could provide an answer if you were to go searching for one. Though I have to say I don't think Lanigan addressed the issue in the most diplomatic way possible either.
Yeah, I mean, he gave an answer, and I guess he had the nerve to say that I like scotch and cigar, and he likes pedicures and manicures, which he did say that he at 3 a.m. he goes out for pedicures and manicures, but he still to this day, the other day, wouldn't say outright if he's gay or straight, which I think is a terrible game that he's playing. But let's move on to your piece, Eliana, and talk about this imaginary friend, as you put it, of Cory Booker.
Oh, sure. Well, for anybody who's listened to Cory Booker's stump speeches throughout the years, he moved to Newark, and he first ran for political office in 1998. And since then, his speeches are filled with tales of his interactions with Newark residents. Because he was raised in a wealthy suburb in New Jersey, he's encountered a lot of skepticism from Newark residents, so he talks a lot about his interactions with the impoverished residents of Newark. Well, one of these people was a drug dealer called T-Bone, who Booker claimed threatened his life during his first month in Newark, and who he subsequently befriended, and who came to him sobbing when there were warrants out for his arrest, and who Booker consoled, and all of a sudden, he happened never to see him again after the day he cried in his car when the police were out to arrest him. So a lot of people in Newark had said, this story doesn't sound right to me. They'd never heard of a person named T-Bone. And a Rutgers University professor told me that Booker had actually admitted to him that T-Bone doesn't exist. He was just a composite of lots of different people that Booker knew. So,
which by the way, this Rutgers history professor, Clement Price, found this whole thing to be very offensive because he believed the whole thing was very stereotypical.
Exactly. So the problem that Professor Price had, and the reason that he even spoke about it with Mayor Booker, was that he objected to Booker perpetuating stereotypes of African American men being street thugs, which is what this T-Bone was. Mayor Booker had talked about watching him deal drugs like pharmaceuticals on the street outside of his window. And so Professor Price told me that he told Mayor Booker that he objected to him doing so, and the mayor admitted it was a mistake and has, since that conversation, dropped the T-Bone anecdote from his speeches. However, the Booker campaign now claims that Professor Price is misremembering his conversation.
Right. Booker has still claimed that T-Bone is for real.
He does, though interestingly, when I went to the Booker campaign's communications director, Kevin Griffiths, and asked for a response before writing my story, all he would say was that this question had been asked and answered. When other reporters, after my story was published, went to him, he pointed them to a 2008 story in Esquire when Booker had said that T-Bone was 1,000% real, but hinted that his actual name might not be T-Bone. The only thing I can say is that, changing somebody's name is completely different from making up a character that is a composite of several different people you've known who doesn't exist. And it's easy enough to say in the course of a stump speech that you're changing someone's name to protect their identity, which he has never done.
We're talking to Eliana Johnson, and she is the media editor at National Review here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Wrote a great piece, Cory Booker's Imaginary Friend, National Review Online. It appeared last week. All right, let me ask you this. As you point out, this is not the first time that Cory Booker has been caught, I don't know if you want to call it making up stories or taking liberties with stories.
That's absolutely right, and I think something like this has to cause you to ask, is he making other stories up? He uses so many anecdotes on the campaign trail. Is he doing it about other things? You're absolutely right. He was caught and apologized in a 2007 speech to Democrats outside of Newark, talking about a Newark education activist. Her name was Judy Diggs, and she passed away, and Mayor Booker was caught on tape speaking about her and how she used curse words every other word. He said she cussed out his mama and cussed out his daddy and was joking about her. He also claimed that she died a poetic death, that she had a heart attack while reading to school children. Judy Diggs had been involved in education throughout her life, and her family, when this tape surfaced, obviously was irate, and they came forward to say that she had died in her office. And so the mayor apologized for that statement, and the two stories together, as I mentioned, they have to cause you to ask what else he's fabricating.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm going to take it to the Washington Post question. He's spoken about girlfriends in the past. I mean, again, not that it matters. It matters to me because he won't come out and say I'm gay or I'm straight, which to me is just, trying to provoke. He's being portrayed as some kind of hero for doing that. But what could you believe and what's not to be believed? But one other thing comes to mind as I was reading your piece. Didn't Barack Obama in his books also make up a composite girlfriend? Do you recall that he made up a?
That's true, and a lot of people have contacted me to say this in response to my piece, but
I'm not defending Booker. I'm not defending Booker because of that. But I'm just saying maybe he saw Obama do this. I don't know when this started, but talk about that. Yeah, in Dreams of My Father, he made up this woman. I forget her name.
Dreams of My Father was published in 1995, and he wrote about a girlfriend who, obviously President Obama became much more prominent in subsequent years, and people began to look at the historical record and even try to find this girlfriend and realize that she didn't exist. She was a composite of a number of girlfriends that he'd had, and he has admitted that and said that he was trying to protect the privacy of some of these people. The one difference I have to say is that though I'm certain that Obama had presidential ambitions when he wrote Dreams from My Father, he did not hold a public office when he created this composite character
Right.
and then stick to the lie after he was questioned about it, which is a great deal different than what Mayor Booker has done.
Well, Eliana, let's see if the media confronts Booker on this, and I could tell you that the answer is going to be absolutely, positively, they won't. But a great piece of work, and I thank you for coming on with us and sharing it.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
My pleasure. Eliana Johnson, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. So Cory Booker makes up this imaginary friend, this stereotypical drug dealer, and he just didn't make him up. He goes into this whole thing. I found myself in this awkward position of trying to counsel this guy, he writes, to turn himself in to actually go to prison because I knew he would. He looks at me hard and begins to tell me about his life story. And some of what shocked me and silenced me is that he told me the same exact life story up until the age of 12 or 13 as my father. Exactly the same. Both of them were born in extreme poverty. He goes on and on and on about a guy he's making up. Or, if you believe him, he still says, no, this guy's real. Kind of scary. When we come back, the whole sexuality case here and the news that we made, we started it on this show. Actually, the Washington Post started it, but who's getting blamed? Steve Lonigan for bringing it up. He didn't bring it up, baby. The Washington Post brought it up. And why won't Cory Booker say I'm gay or I'm straight? Because this is too much fun, and the media will love him for being ambiguous on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV and